Hi all, this is the Allmighty and welcome to this video. I've decided to show you one other game by Karpov. This is the game next in line, the next tournament he played right after the World Championship, Junior Championship under 20, which was held in Stockholm, Sweden in 1969, where he won. This is the Russian Federation Championship. And in those times, this tournament was considered something like a semi-final to the USSR Championship, or maybe better to say a B tournament. So in the USSR Championship, in the real one, there were the strongest players from the USSR wanting to become the USSR champion, but here we had a bit weaker players, but still very much stronger players. So Karpov was one of the participants, and yeah, essentially this is the next tournament in line. I just wanted to show you a couple of tournaments from 1970 in which Karpov played to see how he progressed and which games and how did he play his games. In the last video, maybe I kind of scared you with Karpov's games. Don't be afraid, he isn't playing only 50, 60 moves games. He tends to play a style where he goes into more blocked positional games, blocked positions, but that doesn't mean that he cannot win in a miniature. But yeah, this is the game I prepared. He is playing against Shestakov in this game, and let me just show you. We have e4, e6, so a French defense. We didn't have that in a long time. And now a variation that I haven't yet covered, which is knight to d2. A move that Karpov really liked to deploy against the French defense. And now a couple of moves that can be played: knight to f6, c5, or d captures on e4 even. Here we have knight to f6, e5, knight to d7, and now c3. When the knight is played on c3, you don't play, of course, you cannot play c3, you play f4 to improve your position of the pawns in the center, but here c3 is quite okay, because at one point black will certainly play c5, and he plays it here right away. We have c5, bishop to d3, and now going for a very good idea in b6. The idea behind this move is not to play bishop to b7, rather bishop to a6, and wanting to exchange this light square bishop, because when you, with black pieces, exchange the light square bishop of white, essentially, yeah, all of the white pawns are on dark squares, and white would rather have a light square bishop than this, yeah, kind of useless dark square bishop in this position. So if black manages to do that, he made a very big improvement on his position. So we have queen to e2, temporarily stopping that, a5, bishop to b5, and bishop to a6. Here Karpov plays a4. If bishop takes, he will take with the pawn, and at least have that pawn here kind of messing around with these squares so that the knight cannot come into the game anytime soon. We have queen to c8 first, and now f4. A very good move, so after you redevelop and go kingside castle, that you will have ideas of f5. But here now we have c captures on d4 and c captures on d4. So the idea behind this move was not just to have a piece here in the defense of this bishop, but also to occupy the c file, because as we can see now in this situation, the c file is open, the queen is already on it. Black is kind of equalized in this position, especially after knight to c6, threatening to jump to b4. We have knight from g to f3, bishop captures on b5, a captures on b5, and now knight to b4. White goes castles, otherwise knight to c2, knight to c2 is a threat. And already here Shestakov has this very strong knight on b4. It doesn't seem that white can do very much about it anytime soon, so yeah, it is a kind of a problematic situation currently. We have bishop to e7, and now rook to f2 was played, but maybe a better move was a rook to a3, with an idea rook to c3. So have a bit of a rook lift, attack the queen, so go on that open c file, and maybe when the knight moves somewhere like g5 or even e1, this rook can come on g3 or h3. So having those kinds of ideas in mind. But okay, rook to f2 was played, and now a rook to a7. Having the same idea as black, you want to play the rook on c7 and attack on the c file. We have knight to f1, moving out of the way so the bishop can develop, castles, bishop to d2, and rook to c7. Now bishop captures on b4, and bishop captures on b4. White gives up the dark square bishop, because essentially this dark square bishop for white isn't doing anything. All the pawns are on dark squares here, and yeah, he cannot improve on his position. So here Karpov exchanges it and he plays f5. And now in this situation where, okay, you don't want to capture because knight to e3 comes attacking these two pawns, and black has just messed up his center. Actually here you would want to play a move such as rook to c1, because after that, if rook captures, you have the queen on c1. The queen is on the first rank, the rook is on f2, isn't coming there soon, rook can come on c8, and even if white captures, this is just helping black in the attack. Black is in okay position, it is equal, but it still needs to be played. White is kind of cramped with his pieces here, so Karpov needs to find some solution here, but essentially Shestakov kind of helps him, because in this position he plays f6, which kind of gives Karpov this capture on e6. Knight has to move, he moved it to b8, and after this, knight to e3. Now he's also attacking this pawn, queen captures on e6, now first e captures on f6, rook captures on f6, and now knight to g5. Going for the attack right away, since only in a couple of moves Shestakov left Karpov an option to actually open up the position to gain some space. Usually Karpov is in a position not allowing too much space to his opponent, but he kind of missed some moves here, playing this, having this pawn now here, giving up this light square bishop, and now in the end he kind of get out of this position. We have rook captures on f2, queen captures on f2. Essentially the threat was to capture and maybe come queen to h5, attacking this points. Yeah, would be problematic for black. The queen was attacked, but still when rook took, he was also attacking the queen, so you could have just taken the queen, because yeah, if you take the queen, rook takes, you take this rook, but you also take this knight, and black is just better here. So yeah, in this position, queen to f2, and now queen to c8 was played. A better move was queen to g6, preparing at some point rook to c2. Maybe was afraid of knight to d5. Rook to c2 could have been played now, but also the bishop is attacked, and also knight to e7 could be a threat. Yeah, maybe Shestakov was just afraid of that. He played queen to c8, probably with an idea, if Karpov falls for this trap, there is rook to c1, and if rook to c1, queen captures on c1, queen has to cover, and queen captures on g5. But Karpov didn't go for it. He actually, yeah, instead of, after queen to c8, instead of that he played rook to f1, yeah, getting rid of this threat, rook to c1. Now we have h6 attacking the knight, knight to h3, and queen to d8. Now we have queen to f5, and in this position, yeah, two threats. Keeping the queen on this diagonal, limiting the king, and also twice attacking on d5. You can defend but with rook to d7, but then the knight doesn't have a square to go out of this position. This is yeah, attacked by the pawn, the rook will be here, and this is just, yeah, lost then. Bishop to d2 was played, attacking the knight, knight to d5, and rook to d7. Maybe the last chance was here to actually exchange the rook with rook to c1 to minimize the white's chances for the attack, but even then, after that exchanges, even queen to e6 with check, capturing at some point on b6 would be just lost for black. So here rook to d7, but we had queen to e6 first, king to h8, and now knight from g to f4, knight from h to f4, trying to jump on g6. Bishop captures, knight captures, and now Shestakov, for some reason, he just captured on d4, completely disregarding the threats Karpov had. So in this position he is completely lost, because knight to g6 was a threat, king can only come on h7, and now knight to f8 check. If queen doesn't capture, king goes back to h8 and queen to g6. And actually in this position Shestakov resigned the game, because what follows is in checkmate in 1. Whatever you do, queen to h7 is a threat, and the only thing you can do is capture the knight, but then rook captures on f8, and this is a finished game. So yeah, this is actually the game I wanted to show you from the Russian Federation Championship of 1970. In the end, Karpov won the championship, having 12.5 points out of 17. He had 8 wins and 9 draws. So a very good result in a field with very strong opponents. He had 1.5 point. Yeah, he was 1.5 point in front of the second player. And yeah, he actually had a couple of games where he ended up with draws after 15 moves. But yeah, that also was just enough because he cleared the field quite easily. And yeah, so this is it pretty much for this game and that tournament. In the next video about with Karpov, I'm going to show you a game from another tournament from 1970. Until then, I would like to thank you for watching this video, and I will see you next time.